Here at RT, we report on the story of domestic drones quite often because we feel that the issue of flying robots in the skies of America is an important one. So here's our daily drone story of the day. The DHS has already spent $240 million on a drone program for Border Patrol that, according to an internal audit, is remarkably ineffective. Now, each Predator drone alone costs $18 million, and they cost $3,000 to fly per hour. And for every 4,800 illegal workers caught is $240 million spent. So is the drone program worth it? To discuss more, Trevor Timm, activist with the Electronic Frontier Foundation. He joined me earlier today. Take a listen.
Well, it's pretty clear that the Homeland Security has been pushing these drones. Congress has been giving them money, and yet we have yet to see results about why they're effective or why they should even have them. Like you said, they cost almost $3,000 per hour to fly. They've barely been effective. Something like 29% of the missions are considered success. And yet they want to continue to spend this money. They want to loan these out to other agencies, but the other agencies don't have to pay them back. And it's just yet another problem in regards to how these drones are being used, what kind of privacy protections they have, and even if they're safe and effective, we have no idea. Yet they are continually being pushed upon U.S. agencies, and it looks like they're going to continue this program and even expand it into local government agencies, so it's really concerning.
Well, through this audit, this internal audit, it shows, how much the costs are happening for not really any effective strategy at actually catching illegal immigrants at the border. Why do you think it is that they are using drones at the border if it is such an ineffective way to do this?
Well, we know the drone industry has spent millions of dollars lobbying Congress to push the FAA to start mandating or to mandate the FAA authorize drone use for federal agencies and local law enforcement agencies. That's because, the wars are winding down overseas, and these drone manufacturers have been making lots of money selling to the U.S. government, and now they need somewhere else to sell this equipment. And the best place to do that now is on the American soil. And beyond the Border Patrol, sorry?
No, go ahead, sorry.
Well, beyond the border control program they have running, they're also running a separate program which is aimed at local law enforcement agencies around the country, not just on the border. And they want to facilitate and accelerate the use of drones. They're buying drones actually for local law enforcement agencies, so drones that cost $500,000. Local agencies local towns that you've never even heard of are getting, free drones that are costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yet we have no idea who's flying them, what kind of safety procedures they're using, or what they're using the drones for. So the problems keep multiplying, yet there doesn't seem to be any worry in the government that they should try to solve them.
But Trevor, they're saying that they're not going to use them for spying. They're just going to use them for, police operations. Should we trust that?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of times police operations means mass surveillance and spying. We've seen that with the NYPD. They've been involved in a massive surveillance operation targeting pretty much every Muslim in the tri-state area. And so when they say they want to use these drones to capture criminals, a lot of times what ends up happening is they end up spying on a multitude of people. And even when they are targeting the bad guys, there's a huge chance that because these cameras can basically see entire cities in some instances, that they can capture other footage as well. And ordinary Americans may get caught up as collateral damage.
Interesting points, Trevor. And what do you think about just we already know that there are drones in Miami. The police are using these small little drones. There's a hummingbird drone. There's all drones of different shapes and sizes. Is this just an inevitable future, this dystopic reality? Is this just inevitable? Or do you think that we have a chance really to put privacy provisions in some sort of legislation like Rand Paul's trying to propose?
Right. There's definitely potential that this could get out of hand really fast. I mean, the FAA itself estimated that there may be as many as 30,000 drones flying in the U.S. By the end of the decade, which is basically one in every town. But right now, it's not too late to stop this kind of pervasive drone surveillance where police would be able to use it for virtually any purpose. Right now, privacy law doesn't really prevent them from using them for surveillance purposes without a warrant. But thankfully, Rand Paul and others have proposed laws in Congress that would limit the use of drones and would force police to get a warrant if they want to spy on a certain person, which is how it should be. And hopefully that bill will make its way through Congress. But even if it doesn't, people should be approaching their local city councils and their municipal governments, and especially in towns that we know already have drones, and forcing them to pass binding ordinances or laws that really lay out the rules of how police can use them and how they can't. Because right now, it's a blank slate, and we're not sure how they're going to use them, but we can stop this before it actually gets out of control.
Trevor, sorry I keep calling you by your last name. What do you think about the recent event where a drone was actually overtaken, its GPS was overtaken by just people at a college in Austin? I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, this is kind of an underreported story that's been snowballing for over a year now, that these drones are very, very vulnerable to hacks. Homeland Security actually dared these college researchers to hack their drone. And this is like an industrial strength U.S. surveillance drone. This isn't just like one of the $300 ones you can buy online. And they did it with under $1,000 worth of computer programs, and it was very easy for them. We've seen examples of this before. Even in Iraq, Iraqi insurgents hacked into the video feed of military drones using $26 off-the-shelf software, and they could actually see what the pilots could see. There's also an incident in Iran where they somehow jammed the GPS and guided a top secret U.S. drone down to where there was no damage, and they could essentially use all the U.S. technology that this drone is capable of. So there have been many incidents over the last few years where hacking these drones, it's really become a reality that it's possible, and it's not really being talked about. And that should be one of the primary safety concerns, given that these are going to be flying all over the U.S. skies, and they could be potentially hijacked by anybody.
And drones could be used as weapons. I mean, if someone overtakes the GPS and directs them into an area, it is an interesting and very scary thought for people, and they should be worried about that. But I wanted to get your take also on the drone that crashed. What do you think about that? I mean, do you think that this is also something that people should be concerned about, is the possibility of these drones crashing in domestic areas in this country?
Oh, yeah. A couple weeks ago in Maryland, a drone that was over 40 feet long, a military drone that was being tested, crashed in a river in Maryland. Luckily, there was no people around, so nobody got hurt. But this is going to end up becoming a reality. There's already over 60 military bases that test drones these days in the U.S. alone. And states are vying for other test sites right now with the FAA because, again, they are mandated to start issuing these drone licenses as long as police agencies or anybody can claim that they can use them safely. And again, we don't really know what those safety standards are. There was an incident in Denver even where a pilot almost crashed into a drone that was flying in its airspace. And so, these kind of incidents are going to become more prevalent, and unfortunately, eventually somebody is probably going to get hurt or die from a drone crash, just like you mentioned. In South Korea, this has already happened. A few weeks ago, the GPS device in one of their drones was jammed by an unknown source, and it ended up crashing and killing one person, injuring two others.
Definitely something to consider, Trevor, and also just to ask, is the privacy concerns really worth the risk here and all the other things that you're mentioning? Thanks so much for joining us. That was Trevor Timm, activist with the Electronic Frontier Foundation.